The first thing you have to do if you want to get yourself on an editorial playlist is release music consistently. I recommend at least once a month. I started releasing music in 2017, but it wasn't until September 2020 where I actually started releasing consistently. And then in October 2021 was when I first got placed onto my first editorial playlist. So it took me about a year of consistent releasing to actually get that editorial placement. Another benefit about releasing consistently is that you get more chances to pitch to editors. You're only allowed to pitch one song at a time, and if you're releasing on a monthly schedule, you get 12 chances within the year to pitch to the editors. This and everything else I'm about to share with you is how I got 2 of my original songs onto 4 editorial playlists as an independent artist. I also use these strategies to pitch my new song called I Guess It's What I'm Used To, which just came out today.
What do you think about me? Now that you're without me, you probably think that I need you.
And if this gets placed onto editorial playlists, I will make sure to let you know in the pinned comment in the comment section below. I just want to reiterate that this is my personal experience, and regardless of what you find online, there is no step-by-step process that is actually going to get you onto editorial playlists every single time. These playlists are curated by real people with opinions. You can't read the editor's minds, and there's no way to say for sure what they're going to put on these playlists. But how do I do it? Let's start with the basics. Spotify wants to promote artists that they think have potential. If you show up to Spotify with proof that you take your music seriously, you will be taken seriously. It wasn't until I realized this where I not only got onto editorial playlists, but the audience on my Spotify account grew as well. So how do you express your potential to Spotify? Get your music onto Spotify early. Spotify recommends that you pitch a week before release. Some people have said pitch 4 weeks before your song releases, but I've been able to get onto editorials by pitching 2 weeks before. But overall, I will say that a general rule is that the earlier you submit it, the better, because that gives Spotify's editors a chance to actually hear your music before it comes out. So how do you make sure you get your songs in earlier? Have a fast distributor. I personally use DistroKid, which is also today's sponsor, but regardless of the sponsor, I love DistroKid because of how fast they are. DistroKid distributes your music to Spotify and Apple Music at crazy fast speeds that it actually blows my mind. I think that I'm obligated to say that if you want to ensure that your music comes out on time, you have to submit to DistroKid 4 weeks before the official release date. But I will say that I've submitted my music, and then like after 24 hours, I've been able to pitch it to Spotify, which is freaking crazy fast. DistroKid is stupid fast, stupid cheap for just $20 a year. So I highly recommend you use the link in the description to get 7% off your first year of DistroKid. Another thing you're gonna want to do is make good quality music. Now I know that everybody says my music is great, but in all honesty, we all think our music is decent. If you're just starting off, there's a good chance that your production, mixing, and mastering is not up to par with what's on Spotify's editorial playlist. So make sure that you're constantly working on your craft and getting better and better. This is also exactly why releasing once a month is super beneficial, because you're constantly working on your craft and getting better and better with every release. I've been doing this for years, but ever since I started my monthly releases, I can say that my mixing has gotten so much better because I've been forced to continuously practice my craft. If you don't want to spend the time learning how to mix and master, pay somebody if you have the expenses. Anything that it takes to get your music on par with what's on Spotify is going to increase your chances. So make sure that you get your music mixed and mastered properly. The next thing I want to talk about is understanding the culture of the playlist that you're trying to get into, because I think lots of times people want to get into editorials but don't even really know what editorials are about in the first place. I think a lot of you can relate to me when I say I used to never listen to editorial playlists, but I was still thinking that I could get onto an editorial without really even knowing which one I would fit on. It wasn't until I started listening to editorial playlists in 2020 where I started to realize why these artists were on these playlists. Each playlist has its own culture that is consistent between every song on the playlist. So if your music matches that culture, it is a lot easier for the editors at Spotify to place you on that playlist. Let me give you an example. One of the editorial playlists that I started listening to was called Bedroom Pop. I love the music. I love the culture. If you don't know what bedroom pop is, it is basically pop music made by bedroom producers. That is the culture of the playlist. Because I listened to that playlist so much, my music just naturally started to reflect that, so did my style, and eventually I just considered myself a bedroom pop artist, which I still do today. Getting onto Spotify's bedroom pop editorial playlist became a goal of mine, and guess what? It was the first playlist that I was placed onto. Do you need to change your music and your style just to get on a playlist? No, I wouldn't say so, but make sure that you're doing your research and looking into the playlists that are on Spotify so you can identify which playlists best suit you and kind of match yourself towards those. Spotify has over 3,000 editorial playlists. Definitely more than that. There's got to be at least one that you fit on, so make sure that you look and do your research. Take advantage of unique circumstances. Spotify has a playlist for almost anything nowadays. Latin indie artists, Greek pop artists, Asian artists, LGBTQ artists, women, Christians, League of Legends, literally anything you can think of. Inclusivity is the thing that's being embraced today. So find out what it is that you fit into and embrace it. Whatever it is that is your unique circumstance, make sure you include it in your artist bio, because that is one thing that Spotify does look at when you are pitching. Speaking of pitching, let's talk about why it's so important that you say the right things in your pitch. Along with how your music sounds like, because you have to have good music in the first place, what you say in your pitch will also help sway the editors at Spotify to placing your song onto one of these editorial playlists. A band called Saiso has been on over 14 editorial playlists in less than a year, and this was back in 2020. I'm sure they made it onto more. Over a year ago, I had the privilege to talk to Yost, one of the band members who does the editorial pitching for the band. Yost also has a YouTube channel where he talks about his editorial pitching process, so I highly recommend you check him out. One of the biggest takeaways that I got from my conversation with Yost is that when you're writing your pitch, make sure you're focusing on the marketing and keep it as simple and straightforward as possible. The editors at Spotify are not dumb. They know what Facebook ads are. They know why you're making your music video. You don't have to go into excruciating explanation as to why you're doing all the things for your marketing. You just have to tell them what it is that you're doing. They want to know that you have a plan to driving people towards this song, and you're not just dropping it into the ocean of music without any thought put into it. Again, it all goes back to taking your music seriously, and this is part of the proof that you are actually a musician. How I describe my promo when I'm writing my pitch is that I basically bullet point my marketing plan. To give you an example, my song, I Guess Is What I'm Used To, which just came out today, I wrote this. Promotion is as follows: YouTube content on Rivera's channel, Instagram Reels and TikTok content, music video, Facebook ads, marquee ad, and Submit Hub campaign. And yes, I am doing all this stuff. As you can see, I included my follower count when talking about my social media because it does give me some credibility, which I can use as leverage when doing my pitch. However, if you don't have a huge following, don't worry, there are multiple people that have made it onto editorial playlists without thousands of subscribers or followers on TikTok or Instagram or something. However, even though editorial playlists help a lot with streams, listeners, getting your music out there, it is not the end all be all of Spotify, and is definitely not the best way to grow an audience on the platform. I would argue that Spotify's algorithm is actually a much better way to get streams, listeners, and an actual engaged fan base on Spotify. If you're curious about Spotify's algorithm, make sure you check out this video right here. Show your genius.